Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. A very eventful Teams Day. We've got lots to get through. Rob Sutherland is back. Good to have you back on the show, mate, in the studio. How's your team going? How are you going?
Bloody good. Pretty good. Thrilled to be here, Thomas. Best thing I've done all season is trade drunk. And I brought in Kyle Felt, you little bloody ripper. He's done nothing but good stuff ever since.
Yeah.
I brought in Junior Tupu for good reasons. Crap. So that's it. From now on, drunk trading is all I do.
It's just Thursday and Friday
Which
night
makes it easy because it's pretty much most evenings.
There we go. Happy days. Good start to the podcast. So, cheapies. We finally, after such a rough run with cheapies, we finally have some really good ones. Tyrone Peachey, Jareen Buller for this week, Max Fianai and Carl Oluwapu for next week. This is the Peach scoring a try in the monsoon there. He's looking pretty good, Peachy, as a cheapie. He will get upgraded to dual status if he plays at centre 2 more times. So that should happen before round 12. What are your thoughts on him as a cheapie for this week?
Pass. Hard pass, no.
Are you just trying to get out of the podcast really fast tonight?
No, I've been told we have to keep it snappy. I just don't trust the Peach. I just don't. I'm sorry.
Right, but he's a good Supercoach player. I can see why you don't. He's not a sort of trustworthy NRL player in that he often makes mistakes. But I think in Supercoach he could be a good buy because he has averaged really well in the past. I think he's a great purchase.
He could be. I prefer Max Figo.
Well, we'll get to him in a sec. But in terms of this week, Jareen Buller, I think everything says buy. The only thing that says doesn't is his try assist on the weekend. He was great in this game, not just with the attack, but with defence as well. A couple of try-saving tackles. I think everything says buy except for the fact that, well, 2 things. Plays for the Tigers, and secondly, is only available at fullback.
Much better buy than Peachy, in my rarely humble opinion.
Yeah.
But at fullback, my problem there isn't even what I've got to give up to get to him. And this was raised by, I can't remember who, but someone in the Q&A, the blog, so, credit to them. Your issue is that, say you bring him in and he gets to 350 or 400k, which I feel is around his ceiling, then you want to get to a cheapie, you're going to have to find like another 500k to get to, a keeper. You're going to have to 500k to get to Pappenhausen or Latrell. I don't know, it's a lot of money and I don't love it. So it's not like it's centre wing, where, say, if I brought someone in and he gets to 500, I'll cash him out to enough, maybe even a bit later in the season. That's not going to happen at fullback. So it's an issue for me.
Yeah, it's an issue, but if you've got the right jewels, you should be able to make that work. And I don't feel like fullback is the position it used to be. In the last couple of seasons, you have to have 2 guns at fullback. This year, it's not really like that. You've got Latrell, who's absolutely killing it. And then from there, there's not a great deal doing. Well, certainly not compared to the last few seasons. You've got someone like Reece Walsh, who's coming down in price. You have Gutho, who I actually think is a decent purchase and I wouldn't be selling. But from there on, it's not as good a position as it used to be. So I'm happy to run a cheapie there for a couple of weeks until round 13 comes along. He makes a bit of cash until then.
Yeah, you're saying that because you've got the fullbacks to make it work. I've got Teddy and Turbo there. I'm not selling either of them to get to Buller.
Fair enough. And I'd be selling Taruva. Yeah. So it does depend on team balance, definitely. Yeah. Moving on to Max Fianai. So big news that the Dragons hook has swung the axe. He's trying to save his job. And Zach Lomax has been axed for Max Fianai. Look, it's good for Supercoach. Don't get on this week, but he scored 80 last week on the wing, starting this week at centre. So have a look this week, but a definite cheapie for next week.
Yeah, definite for next week. And the same goes, I'm just going to throw him straight in. Carl Oloapu, awesome. I thought he was really, really good, what we saw. Named again on the bench. He's just a great way out of Katoa next week.
Yep, basically 40 points in 40-odd minutes. So a point a minute without any big attacking stats. He looked really good. He was a bit of a game changer in that clash against the Dragons as well. So I think Katoa to him will be the number 1 purchase next week.
I think he was a game changer. I'd also, maybe if I was going to caution anything, and I'm going to say this, it's beware of the Dragons effect.
Yes.
They have made a lot of backline attacking players look really, really good, and then you see him the next week. It's maybe not quite the same.
Jake Averillo had a very good game on the weekend.
Did
That's
he?
all
Did he?
I'm
Because
saying.
I read somewhere that his move on a particular player who shall not be named, and I will not say where I read it, was nothing special. Wasn't very, very good at all.
Mate, I'm just thought you'd be triggered by that comment.
Just a little.
And Valence Tafare, we thought would be named with Brenko Lee in a little bit of doubt with a leg injury. That hasn't happened. Lee has been named, but Tafare could come into that team if Brenko Lee gets ruled out. So he's one of these guys that we talked up massively in the preseason compared to Conrad Hurrell. He's got, the tackle busting, the perfect Supercoach game.
Yeah.
So hopefully he comes into that team this week, and we've got another cheapie for in 2 weeks' time, just before the buys.
There's a lot of Connie Hurrell about him. But, the Dolphins have a lot of sort of bits and pieces there, so it's hard to be sure. If he comes in, he's going to stay.
Let's take some questions. Lots coming through on YouTube and send them through on Facey as well. There's lots of love for Jareem Buller, saying he's a great buy. Thoughts on selling Walsh? I mean, we're going to get to him in a sec, but we may as well discuss him now.
It's only 2 games ago that he was averaging like 100 or 95 or something in that area. He was coming off 190 and 80 and 90, 100. Like, I understand why people are selling. They're taking the cash and maybe going to Buller and then using it to upgrade a Katoa to a Dylan Brown. If I was moving those pieces in that way, I could get around it. But I also think that there's a good chance Walsh scores 100 this weekend.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I think he's got a tough run of games coming up, so I'd be cashing out.
He'll be better with Ezra Mann back.
Probably, and it is Magic round, so you'd think the Broncos would be fired up for that clash. I still think that his run has come to the end. He had a barely believable run of games, and now he's got some really tough games coming up. On to Harry Grant. Is he a buy this week?
Your issue is that Origin's not that far away, but he's the hooker to own. Would you? I think I would buy. Yeah, if I'm going to pick. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think I would be too. Certainly for a head-to-head player, probably not for overall. And Cleary, is he a sell? A lot of people are selling this week. It's not for me, but you can see why.
Look, I think this weekend is built for a Panthers, smashback and a Cleary masterclass. Like, coming off a loss, they'd be humbled. I mean, they didn't just lose to anyone. They lost to a team that hadn't lost for 276 days or something. Yeah. You can make a few tiny excuses, but both teams were playing on a bog track, and it's Magic round. If any round is suited for Cleary to come out, score 3 tries, probably kick goals again, and then show that he's 100% at the place where Origin's going to be played, it's this game.
Yep, let's hope that happens. Let's run through the winners.
I'm manifesting it, Thomas. I'm manifesting it.
I hope it happens too, because I'll be there watching on, and I hope it really does happen.
Messi?
Yeah, I won't. Yeah, I won't really know what's happening.
I'm going to see Fatboy Slim. Mate,
wow,
who's going to do the show on Tuesday? They'll be dragging us in.
Actually, yeah, I'm going to be in on Tuesday, and then I'm off for the rest of the week.
Messi.
So
anyway, that's enough about us. Yeah.
Payne Haas, he's back from suspension, so that's a big boost for a lot of super coaches. He's a try from a couple of weeks back. He's just so far ahead at prop, so good to have him back.
I'm very happy. Yeah, means I don't have to play. I had Uta Kamanu and nobody. Like, there was no questions I was going to throw the vice captaincy loophole because I didn't have any backup.
I ended up with Mawale in my 17 up against
you.
Dewey.
5?
He got 12, I think.
You didn't verse me, Thomas. There's no such word.
Sorry, let's not get into the semantics there.
It's not even semantics.
All
right, you want me to move on? I'll move on.
Tohu Harris is back after a lot of people sold him. Chance Nickel Clockstad is good. So I still own him. He's back from that concussion. There was a bit of chat that he might have to miss the 2 weeks, but it was only a Category 2 concussion. So he's back. Should play, and good news.
Yeah, I sold him the other week, but he's going great guns. Yep. I suppose the other issue is he's got a bye coming up next week.
Yeah, so it's the one before the big bye.
Right.
So that's the issue there. You don't want too many Warriors going into the buys.
You don't want too many head knocks.
But then, and you don't want too many head knocks, but he's averaged in the mid-60s when you take out the concussion-affected games. Yep. So if he doesn't get banged in the head, he does do well.
Yep.
Joey Manu, at your Roosters, they've won 2 games with him at 5'8", and he stays there this week.
There were... It's a very nice try. Whispers that Sammy Walker was going to be named this week, but it didn't happen. I think if Walker didn't get named this week when the Roosters are particularly thin in the outside backs, then this is a fair sign that Joey Manu is going to stay at 5'8" for the foreseeable.
Yep, they got Hutchison filling in centre wing again this week. So that goes to show that they are short and Manu's not playing there. So that they're backing Manu in at 5'8".
Yeah, I mean, they could have gone to Billy Smith, who had a good game in New South Wales Cup for the Bears. I think he had 7 tackle busts, ran for about 140 metres. But, you know, they're going with this slightly overweight Orbo. And Joey Manu stays at 5'8", which makes him a buy.
I was waiting until that came out. Jared Croker. So good news on him. Savage is back into that team on the wing, and he was always the big watch here. When he comes back, does Croker stay in the team with all sorts of dominoes falling around that? He's come in for Albert Hopewadi, who has a family wedding this weekend. So that means Croker's safe. The big cheapie from last week and the last few weeks before that.
Yeah, who got a try in the first minute. So we're going to get a little bit of cash out of him. He could be a play this week as well. He's going really well.
He really wound back the clock to the glory years of Jared Croker kicking goals from everywhere and scoring that try. Ruben Garrick, at centre on the weekend, it was tough to watch.
It was brutal.
He's back on the wing this week. They've got Brad Parker back way early from a knee injury and Tolu Kula back as well. So Garrick back to the wing. Turbo's back too, so he'll be getting fed some decent ball. This is all good signs for Garrick.
Back on the wing, Turbo a huge thing. They should score more points. They should go the bloody left more often. They were just terrified of going left. They kept going DCE to the right. Johns was just pointless there. The Titans could load up on that edge and just smash them time and time again. But at least with Turbo swinging left, they go, oh, there's a star out there. I'll put the ball that way. You know, and Manly's going to be a bit more dangerous. I think it's much better for Garrick.
Jacob Carraz, he's back early as well. And the big break even of 137. So this guy could be a purchase. He doesn't play around 13. So maybe in 14 he could bottom out and then get you through a few buys.
Very super coach friendly game.
Yeah, 100%. And then finally, Hayes Dunster on the winners list. We thought that he would get dropped with Bailey Simonson back. It hasn't happened. Sean Russell has made way. So Dunster, who actually lost cash, even though he's a cheapie, has been retained. So hopefully we get a little bit of cash to come there. On to the losers. Maddo, he's back after a bout of the flu, but on the bench. So I had him down as the number one buy for the buys, but he's benched now. I don't know if he can go there.
This is the second year in a row that Ryan Madison has let us down coming into a bye. I think last time it was because he got picked for Origin, so I mean, it's not his fault. But I mean, it's interesting what they've done. You know, Maddo on the bench and Davey comes straight in.
Davey, so Andrew Davey, who is, let's call him a journeyman, has come straight into the starting side with Madison, a potential Origin player, going back to the bench.
A slap in the face, and that's the second Madison to get slapped in the face this week. So there's obviously a trend.
Toa Sipley, so he, or Toff Sipley, as he's called, out for 3 to 4 weeks. He was a really popular cheapie last week, so that's a bit of a blow. And Robert Jennings, who we tried to talk people out of last week, ended up as the second most purchased player and the most purchased cheapie. He's been dropped this week with Tessie New coming back. Exactly what we said. Exactly what we said was going to happen.
I mean, buying a bloke, I know he had a good PE, but buying a bloke who stopped 2 metres short of the line when he could have scored a try, like that should have been a red flag to anyone.
Yes. And there was a few other nervous moments over the weekend as well. Onto the buy list, Gutho. Look, everyone's clamouring to get Eels into their team. Madison's fallen over by being dropped to the bench this week and getting the flu last week. But Gutho, look, I kind of like him. I'm not going to bring him in this week because I'm going Buller, but I'm thinking Gutherson could be in my team for around 13. But then he misses 14.
Yeah, so, 750k makes me uncomfortable too. And the fact that, I mean, Gutho has been playing this game a long time and playing in a team that was scoring a lot of points, but he's never gone this well. He's never gone this consistently well. Which either is things have super changed at the Eels, or maybe he's just had a bit of luck. I don't know if I'd want to buy him at 750k.
Well, also on consistency and also on the Eels, I think their most consistent guy week in, week out is Dylan Brown. Finally got a big score on the weekend, but he always has the base. His ceiling is generally not that high, but his floor is very high. So you get super consistency from Dylan Brown, so he's popular this week. Got the good bye schedule, won't play Origin, given that he's a Kiwi, so I can get around why people are getting on Dylan Brown, and I own him, and I'm happy.
And Mitch Moses, I mean, he's got the goal kicking, and he's been going gangbusters. I think there's 3 or 4 Eels in the top 6 purchased, and it's both their great form and good bye coverage.
Yeah.
13, not 14.
Cleary to Moses is pretty popular this week. Onto the holds, I've got Cleary there, but we've spoken about him. Josh Schuster, what do we do with him? It looks like he's out for a pretty extended time. I don't see him coming back into that side very soon. Plus, they've picked up Kyle Flanagan. They've got Johns floating around in that.
They haven't got Flanagan yet.
That hasn't been confirmed. It's been talked about. Yeah. But in any case, Schuster has been told to work on his fitness and his attitude, I guess. So I don't see him coming back. Hopefully he's there for round 13, but you can't sell him to anyone, really. If you go to Peachy, you have to spend cash to do that.
I think if Manly's serious about it, they've got to put him out to 15. I mean, I know there was someone on this podcast who, I think it was last year, who was talking about that Schuster's a bloke who's read his own mail a little bit too much.
Was that
read his own press. Yeah, it was me. Yeah. And it's nice to see, the come home to roost and Schuster get the comeuppance that I think he deserved as a guy who was very, very talented, but everything went a bit too smoothly for him a bit too early, and then you just saw him ease right out of it.
Yep. And I said exactly the same thing about Zach Lomax last year, and that has come to fruition this week as well. So good. We're just getting everything right on this show.
Lomax is welcome at the Roosters if the Dragons want to pay $750K.
If another code doesn't get him first.
Ooh.
Sell. Reece Walsh, I think he is a sell. I think you've got to cash out, but we've spoken about that.
Yep.
I've got Trbojevic on the sell list, but I wrote this quite early this morning, so I've actually changed my opinion there.
You sobered up?
If I owned him, if I owned him, I would be playing him as a bit of a pod this week, actually, because a lot of people have sold.
I'd hold, 100%.
And then Taruva, I think, obviously he's a peak cheapie, so he is a sell at a massive profit. And Eli Katoa, a lot of people are selling this week. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, probably. All right, questions, and then we've got to be super fast because we're going to get in trouble. So it's like
you're going to get in trouble for what? Hopawati at a family wedding. What could go wrong? That's
thumbs up
from Steve Maxfield. Dylan Edwards. What are your thoughts on him?
Very good player that's never been SuperCoach relevant in years when he's been arguably top 3 fullbacks in the game. He can never get into the top 6 position. Yeah.
Look, he absolutely killed it at the start of the year, but you look at his 3-round average and it's way down. So he's one of these fullbacks that I kind of touched on before that just the fullback position isn't quite there. You've got Lockie Miller who killed it at the start of the year, but he's averaging about 50 over the last 3 rounds. You've got Teddy not really performing this year. Turbo's injured, a walking injury. He's been named this week. So you've got this position that used to be the be-all and end-all for SuperCoach that isn't anymore. So I can absolutely see why you get Buller in.
Geez, you're a doom and gloom merchant, Thomas. Oh, much more. I'm a glass half full guy.
Please. Bulldogs v the Raiders is the first clash. Max King is back. He was originally out for 4 weeks, but he's come back into that team. Your man Franklin Pele is back in as well. So, and Karaz is back. So 3 really big SuperCoach names back into that team.
Player I want to see, Hayes Perham, or that stands out to me, gone bloody well. And I poo-pooed him. I'm a person who's more than happy to sing my own praises and often do. There's a lot to say that's nice about me. I got this one wrong. Hayes Perham has been very, very good.
Preston, so I'm considering selling him for Peachy this week. Did he limp off late, or did I imagine that?
No, he did. He did. Something went wrong. No, he got an HIA. He got an HIA, so that's why his time is reduced. And I also think there was something at the end of the game. I looked at between selling him and Hosking, and I think Preston's the guy you can let go out of those two. At the moment, neither are keepers to the end.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too, but I'll probably sell Eli Katoa first. Raiders, as I mentioned, Xavier Savage is back on the wing for Hopper. Croker stays in that team, but they still have Nick Kotrick to return. So we haven't cleared all obstacles on Croker yet, but it's looking good. Anyone else standing out for you here?
There's lots I like at this team. Timoko has been killing it. Rapiner, he's a freaking lunatic, but,
fun to watch.
But fun to watch. Corey Horsburgh, last 3 games, he's played over 70 minutes, averaging 65 points or 68 points, and like 60 of that's coming in base. I was looking at getting Tapane this week because I really like the Raiders bye schedule, but I'm getting the horse. He's cheaper, dual position. He's a red-headed lunatic. What's not to like?
Yep, absolutely. The Sea Eagles v the Broncos, Friday night at Suncorp Stadium on Magic Round. So this is going to go off, this game. Jake Trbojevic, though, is out with a calf injury for a month, I believe. It was originally 2 weeks, now it's a month. So
he's cleared Max King's path to the Origin team.
Yeah, not looking good for Origin for Jakey. But they do have his brother back and Brad Parker and Tolu Kula. So a few guys back into that team. Who's standing out for you?
Tommy T. He's going to have a huge game.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I'm hoping not. Fingers crossed because I sold him last week.
It's not very nice of you, Thomas.
The Bronx, Kobe Hetherington is in a little bit of doubt, but they've got Payne Haas and Ezra Mam back into that team. Relatively easy matchup this week, but then it's tough from here on.
There is nothing I like at that team outside of Payne Haas.
At the Warriors, big news with Tohu and Charles Nickel-Klokstad both named in that team. Anyone standing out? What are you doing with Jackson forward?
I sold him, so it was pretty nervous watching the game on Sunday because he was two times he got over the line and was held up both times. So he could have had a massive score.
Well, he dropped one over the line as well, didn't he?
Drop one?
Yeah, he got smashed and dropped the ball at one stage.
Yes, dropped one and then held up on another.
So it could have been a whole different story for him last
Very
week.
impressed. But, you know, I think you're nearing the point where you'd sell him for Neil Blake. I think if he didn't play every minute of the game, he played a bloody lot. He was very good.
Yeah, played at lock, but they've got Tohu back this week, so you wouldn't expect as big a minutes for him, but still, he's been absolutely killing it recently. Yeah. Panthers, so James Fisher-Harris is back into that team. Big news for them. So many Supercoach relevant players. You mentioned Hosking before. I was tempted to sell, was it last week? After he played that 60-odd minute game. Didn't play the full 80, but he was back to 80 on the weekend. So he's a hold for me at least until 13.
Yeah, and Garner's been named in the New South Wales Cup team to start. I know he's there as a reserve, but I think he's just there to fill a spot. So, yeah, I think Hosking's a hold until he's, at least till Martin's back.
At the Sharkies v the Dolphins, Braden Hamlin-Ueli is out for a month after that hip drop tackle, but Finucane is back into that team, and then Nicho Hines, captain this week. He's got to be at least a VC or a C option every week from here until Origin, and then presumably he plays Origin. Whether it's 14 or 6, he plays Origin.
I think he does. Mulatalo has been awesome. I mean, the entire back five has been very good. Mulatalo's been great, and Talakai is on the cusp of selection territory. But if I want a shark outside of Nico, it's Mulatalo.
On to the Dolphins. They've got Ray Stone out with concussion and Robert Jennings out too, as I mentioned before, dropping out of that team for Tessie New. And Milford on the bench, which is interesting. Do you think that might cut into Isaiah Katoa or Nikarima or both?
I think it also allows them a bit of flexibility if Marshall King can't quite go the 80, although he is very much an 80-minute hooker. Connolly Lemuelu, I missed out on to start the season, and then he scored 120 or something like that on the weekend, I think with 2 tries, and looked very good. And I thought, maybe I can get him in, but he's a 45 to 55 guy if he doesn't score a try, and that's if he stays starting 80 minutes, so I can't have him.
Yep, too expensive now. Storm v the Rabbitohs. So Eli Katoa is back despite that head knock a couple of weeks ago. So it looks like he will be... there's an 11-day turnaround, and there was a bit of question marks over whether he'd be available, but he looks like he is available.
He's named, but they're monitoring. Yeah.
Right. Thoughts here? I mean, Will Warbrick is a sell. Munster is always tempting, but not with Origin looming. Anyone standing out here?
Naz. Got my eye on Naz. Yeah. He's outside of Haas, props bit thin, and Naz has a lot of upside to him. So yeah, he's one player I'm watching.
At the Rabbitohs, Davey Moale is out with Liam Knight coming into that team. Knight's been working his way back through New South Wales Cup. This is actually good news for my team because Moale was my auto emergency last week, so that won't be happening for me. I can use the loophole from here. Latrell smashing it. Alex Johnston, benefiting from that as well. Campbell Graham's killing it. So many guys in this side who are going well, but then you have Origin looming, and you'd expect that a few people from this team will be in that one of those sides.
You'd think so. Cameron Murray had the distinction of scoring, I think, 54 in base, but finished with 43 points, which is an interesting way to go around it. He had I think he had 19 negative points with a sin bin, penalties, errors, even had a kick dead. Like, if you could find a way to get minus, it happened to Murray. Form, the scoring hasn't been there. A lot of people are selling. I'm just going to hold on to the grim death. All these other Rabbitohs are scoring well. Murray's not, but he's the one that's in my team. That's how my season is, Tom.
Yep, sell him in 13 for Madison when Madison's back.
I'm just going to hold him to the end.
Tigers, Brett Naden is suspended. Jareen Buller, it's all about him in this team. I think you can find room for him at fullback, but you can't.
I can't. I could, but I won't because I'm a stubborn fool.
Fair enough. There is the argument as well that with so many cheapies coming in the next couple of weeks, we mentioned it at the top, that you don't need to take the punt on Buller. You can just go with Peachy and Oluwapu next week, for example.
Yeah, look, I do prefer Buller over Peachy. I just can't make it work.
At the Dragons, Hook Griffin is looking to save his job. He's swung the axe. Lomax is out, Little's out, and Couchman, who I think has been pretty impressive, he's Gornsky as well. Supercoach-wise, Tyrrell Sloan is just so up and down. A lot of people are on him, but I could never go there, and I'm kind of glad I didn't.
I wish I had, because he went up about 250k on his starting price, but I never would have held firm. Jack Bird, back to 13. I'm happy about that as someone who bought him last week, and his work rate on an edge, he's willing, he's always getting in there, but he's not getting the work that he'll get when he's at 13.
Yeah, Jack Bird will be in my team for round 13. I'm just not going to move yet. And then Max VNI is obviously the guy to watch this weekend. He could be a massive cheapie for next week. Roosters, Brandon Smith has been named despite going to hospital with that neck injury, so good news for him. Drew Hutchinson's in the centres for Momorowski, who's out with a shoulder injury. Joey Manu, is he still a buy? I got on 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty happy. He's averaging almost 100 at 5'8" over his career.
Yeah, but he's only averaging he's 90 and a 60. So his price is just sort of at the bottom of where it's going to be. I think he's a buy. The buy coverage is not spectacular, but Joey Manu at 6 is. So yeah.
James Tedesco I bought last week, and we were speaking off air that I don't think his game has changed at all. I think he is playing exactly the same as James Tedesco has. It's just things around him aren't happening. I think once the Roosters click, he will click, and hopefully it's this weekend. Magic Round, good weather, Suncorp Stadium, hard, dry surface. Good matchup against the Cowboys. I'm hoping it's this week.
If they can all stay together, Smith at 9, Radley at 13, Satili Tupanua coming in and playing sort of, because he's got a lovely ability to poke his nose through and then offload. I think it's going to happen, but I hope it's soon.
Yeah, sneaky C choice this week, just quietly with the VC on Nico Hines.
Brave.
Cowboys, Helam Lukey's back, but Nanai's out for 4 weeks. He's rubbed himself out of Origin as well. Not much to like from a Supercoach perspective here, though.
Please. Kyle Felt.
Yeah, sorry. Your boy, he was due for a try when you brought him in.
He's
gone on a bit of a run.
That's
since.
why. There was some logic to it. I think he's pretty much peaked in price, but I'm just going to enjoy it for now.
Titans v the Eels. AJ Brimson's out with that hamstring yet again, so Jaden Campbell goes in at fullback, and he's been going pretty well in that position. Do you still own Khan Pereira?
No, thanks. Thanks for bringing that up. I sold him before he started scoring tries.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
No.
David Fafita's killing it too. So
I had him. He's
sneaky late
phenomenal.
captaincy choice as well, if you like to play it that way. Anyone else standing out?
Look, this kid, and excuse me if I pronounce it incorrectly, I do a lot. Keanu Kinney, who's in the reserves. There was a really good article in the Gold Coast Bully. I think it's Nick Wright is the journo there, talking about how this kid is close to making a debut, and I think Thomas Weaver was the other one he mentioned. So I'd watch those. Yep,
both those guys in the reserves. And then finally, the Eels. I mentioned it before, but Maddo on the bench with Andrew Davies starting. Hopgood retains that lock spot, though, and he killed it there on the weekend.
He did, but I've got a rule, Thomas. Once you drop someone, you can't bring her back in. I've broken that rule a million times, but this time I'm going to keep
Yeah, I tend to agree on that. I cashed him out a few weeks ago, and I can't really go back on it. So he stays in my team. Oh, sorry, he stays out of my team. Does he make Origin? Probably. Nah. You don't think so?
Come on.
Because if he does, he goes from being one of the best by coverage players in the comp to, if he makes Origin, he's one of the worst by players in the comp because he misses five rounds over that
He's
period.
a Queenslander.
Yeah.
And when his name was brought up to Slater, you could hear Slater's politely going, "Oh, well, everyone who's in good form is," and it's like, come on, man. Like David Fafita is a maybe to make that team. That forward pack, they're going to kill New South Wales. New South Wales do not have a hope in this series. Dead meat. It's going to be 3-0. Probably. I mean, I would imagine that Bulldog might write a yarn. The New South Wales is the worst team in history.
Here we go. So no Jake Turbo as well. So that's a big blow for the Blues. Take some questions. Look, people are selling Marzu. Would you do that? He's got the bye and he hasn't been going great the last couple of weeks, but the base is still there.
His bad game is 40, 39. But, and he's gone over 60 and 67% of his games. No, he's a hold for me.
This is a good call. A wet Jareem Buller. Kind of like that one. That's good. You're not into it?
I'm going to leave that one over that side of the table.
Why does Rob always look so professional? From Benny G.
Thanks, Mum.
Is that ironic or?
I think it's just a straight up dig. Yeah, but I'm alright with it.
Turbo and Gutho as fullbacks. I don't mind that. I'm kind of into Gutho for the bike.
You don't like it because you sold Turbo. You're a Turbo hater. I mean, you hate
I'm
like
death
one of the
riding
nicest people in rugby league.
I'm death riding.
You were before we came on. You were saying you hope he gets injured again.
No,
which is brutal. That's very Rob Sutherland areas.
That's completely made up. But I am death riding Turbo this weekend. Absolutely death riding him because I won't. It's going to be a tough 3 weeks not owning him before Origin.
Yeah, but see, this is what I want. I want him to slide in, not get into the Origin team, and then play for the Blaley Beasts and Manly.
Play around 13. Yeah. Huge. All right. Well, that has been a quick, short, punchy, and fun podcast with Rob Sutherland back into the hot seat. We'll catch you for the Game Day podcast at 11 a.m. on Thursday. Thanks to Rob, and we'll see you then.